Let's look though at the numbers that have come out from the Axis My India poll of Uttar Pradesh, the critical state which everyone was waiting to see what would happen. And these are the figures which have staggered people. As per the poll, the BJP is expected to win a massive majority. The vote share of the BJP well ahead of its rivals, 46% versus 36% of the Samajwadi Party. The others going well behind. Mayawati down to 12%, the Congress 3%, others are 3%. How is this translating into seats? These are the numbers that many are shocked and staggered by because of the scale of the victory being predicted by Axis My India. They are predicting at the moment, based on these vote share numbers, the BJP winning 288 to 326 seats. That's right, 288 to 326 seats is what is being predicted for the BJP. A virtual landslide, or landslide, why virtual? Landslide for the BJP, 71 to 101 for the SP, and 3 to 8 is what is being predicted for Mayawati, decimated, as is the Congress with 1 to 3. These are, of course, the numbers being predicted by Axis My India. And the big story they predict is a massive lead for the BJP of 16% among women.
On the question of who people want as the next Chief Minister in Uttar Pradesh, Yogi Adityanath, the incumbent Chief Minister, could overturn 34 years of electoral history by becoming the first Chief Minister to be re-elected to power. 45% of the respondents want Yogi Adityanath as Chief Minister. Only 35% want Akhilesh Yadav as Chief Minister. Mayawati only 12%. Priyanka Gandhi at 1%. Pradeep Gupta, what is it that you've picked up about Uttar Pradesh that the other pollsters did not? When everyone was saying phasi hui hai, or it's a very tight election, you seem to be predicting a tsunami of sorts for the BJP.
When you say phasi hui hai, which is the case in our poll as well, but among the male voters only, where BJP is likely to get 44% of male votes as against SP's 40%, meaning the difference between two parties is only 4%. But when it comes to female voters, it is turning out to be 16% gap, as against 4% gap in male voters, and female voter is 16% vote. So Ration Prasashan,
or Ration and Shasan, or Prashasan,
Ration, Prasashan and female voter, these are the three keywords which define the poll.
But Sanjay Kumar of CSTS was with us. He said you are predicting a 10% lead for the BJP, while predicting a 16% lead among the women, even though your sample size has fewer women. So how are you going and predicting such a big victory for the BJP when among male voters the gap is narrow? Correct me if I'm wrong,
yes,
Rahul. That is the concern being expressed.
Sanjay Kumarji is expert psephologist. There is no doubt onto that. But it's not only, when we say 27% female voters we spoke to, but what is more important is that we need to extrapolate those 27% to 50%. And we come out with the result, whatever is being shown. And not only this, up to 6%, these data, collected data, is weighted over real voters turnout of male separately and female separately. That is the conviction level of our poll.
No, but the point that was made by Sanjay Kumar in questioning your data was to say that if you actually look at the percentage of women that you caught in your raw data, the original sample, you've picked up far fewer women, and therefore you're extrapolating based on your sample, and therefore that could potentially create a pitfall. That's his concern.
That
you're laying lots of weights
concern
on
may be
weights.
right, but we have taken care. But when it comes to 1,21,000 total,
so it's 73% men, 27% women in your raw sample.
Right.
The rest of it is extrapolation.
So that's what I'm saying. Total sample size is 1,21,000. 27% of that roughly comes to 35,000 women we spoke to. 35,000 is too big a number to make out what's happening among the 50% of actual female voters.
Okay,
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
You see, when we talk about Labharti, I know it works on the ground. Say in Bundelkhand, impoverished, drought-stricken area where food grain is a big issue. Right. And it really was resounding, so BJP can do well there. But I have a little question. When it comes to a Labharti policy, food grain, everything, 20% of UP population are Muslims, 10% are Yadavs, and 10% could be Jatavs. Now that makes it 40% who will take all the benefits. I know Muslims don't leave the benefits. They get homes, they get everything. But they never vote for the BJP. Now you have 40% already out of that Labharti big umbrella. So you may just say that this 60% rest of them are all voting for the BJP.
Of course, yes.
Okay.
So I just wanted to ask you,
Yes,
that
go
don't
ahead.
you think that these days voters do not truthfully give their preferences? Because
See-
they are either they are afraid or they are very smart.
No. There is no question of any fear factor in Uttar Pradesh when voter is speaking out, unlike in West Bengal. And we always talk to them in a very peaceful manner, not on the road, not among the public. That is what it is called post-poll studies, because Election Commission has been to conduct the exit poll, which is on the same day. We do all our studies next day.
And have you gone by the exact caste dynamics of a constituency? Let's say there are 40%
Of course,
Kurmis.
yes.
You have gone to 40% Kurmi women?
That's what we say, representative sampling, not only
No,
the
it can
caste
never be
factor is-
40% Kurmi women. They'll adjust it to try and...
Not only the caste, we maintain age group, and also to the large extent the occupation we maintain.
Can I just ask you one before you go to the panelists, Rahul? Because the skeptics will say Pradeep Gupta. Pradeep Gupta got Bengal wrong. They're already throwing the number at me. All
Yes,
the SP
yes,
guys are
yes,
throwing.
they are
You
right.
and you're right. You remember Bihar, which was a tough election because it was very difficult to sample size in COVID times at the time. But we underestimated the women vote and we got our numbers wrong.
Right.
Therefore, people will ask, एक बार गलत गए, दो बार गलत गए, तीसरी बार भी गलत हो सकते हैं क्या प्रदीप गुप्ता?
That's what I'm answering to that. Pradeep Gupta definitely can go wrong. But you have to see the right part also. We have predicted 48 elections right and 4 elections wrong. And that is how it is.
But you are that confident of Uttar Pradesh this time?
I'll tell you how much I am confident.
Huh.
My range is 288 to 326.
Yes.
If it turn out to 270s, let's say, 10 seats less.
No problem.
If you call it wrong, yes, I am wrong. And if this 326, I am very confident can go up to 336.
Chalo.
Then Yogi Adityanath will call you to Lucknow. You will get a private tour of the Kashi Vishwanath and the Ayodhya temple as well. That's Pradeep Gupta. He has a ticket to Boston and the ticket is contingent on getting this right. So there's a lot at stake, which is why he's got a new suit also. Don't miss that. Let's go across to Raghav Chadda. Raghav Chadda joins us and we'll
Aam
focus for
Adami
a
Party
moment
as well as a few others.
on the national significance. Raghav is on a phone. Sirji, are you with us or are you on a phone?
Also with us is Syed Zafar Islam and Supriya Srinath. But go ahead, Rahul, because both, I think the two big stories coming are Punjab and our Uttar Pradesh.
Raghav, do you hear us or not?
Please go ahead, Rahul.
No, now I do. I do. I
Okay,
can hear
good.
you loud
No,
and clear.
so yes, I see you are smiling and with good reason. Raghav's been slogging in Punjab. It seems jhadu chal gaya Punjab mein, and many congratulations, at least as far as this exit poll is concerned, Raghav. You've been very nervous the last
No, thank
several
you.
days.
I have been very nervous, and all of us have been working very hard. We've given our blood, sweat, tears, and toil to this election campaign, and I can tell you, this election is for change. People of Punjab have overwhelmingly voted to make Bhagwant Mann their chief minister and voted in favor of the jodi, the combo of Arvind Kejriwal and Bhagwant Mann. This is people of Punjab
Are we
embracing
talking
the
at this
Kejriwal
moment,
model of
Raghav,
governance.
to a potential deputy chief minister in the Aam Adami Party government in Punjab?
No, Rahul, I was only given the responsibility of making my party contest the election. I'm the in charge for the state, co-in charge. I am nowhere in the consideration for all these fancy offices that you have just said. Number one, it's another thing that I hail from the state, but that doesn't mean I'm going to assume office in that state. That's point number one. Point number two, look, these results, if these are the results on the 10th of March, tell us that Aam Adami Party is perhaps the fastest growing political party in the history of independent India. If you were to rewind back to the birth of BJP, which had, the paraphernalia and the backing of the Jan Sangh, when BJP was incorporated, it took the BJP, if my memory serves me right, a decade, full 10 years to win its first state. And Aam Adami Party, which is 8 years into its existence, has already won Delhi.
Rahul Verma,
right?
is that correct?
And
that
is
the
now
AAP
going
is
to
the
form a
fastest
government in the
growing
state of
political
Punjab.
party in the country in India's electoral history? He says BJP took 10 years to win. Rajdeep, trivia.
Wrong.
How is it
Telugu
wrong?
Desam, 6
No,
months.
2 states, boss. He's saying 2 states.
Has any party formed
Won
a
2
government in
states.
2 states in 10 years?
The Congress doesn't count.
No, I think there he might be right. There he would be right.
Nobody else is really
No,
won a second.
there he could be right. It is the startup of the
first regional
decade.
party to come
No,
into another one.
let Raghav smile. It is the startup of the decade.
He's
There's
become
no
a
doubt.
political
May I
unicorn. He just
also-
hit a political unicorn status. Yes, Raghav.
And also at the risk of sounding immodest, let me say this, Rahul and Mr. Sardesai, that Aam Adami Party is going to be the national and the natural replacement of the Congress. Arvind Kejriwal-ji is going to be the principal challenger to the BJP come 2024, and I feel...
Ole. Let's not get carried
No,
away.
that's
These
a
are just
very
the
interesting.
exit
No,
poll
no,
numbers.
let's take that forward. First of all, interesting. You call him Rahul and call me Mr. Sardesai. Chalo, you recognize my age and white hair. But Supriya Srinath, very interesting, significant point that Raghav Chadha has made. He says if Aam Adami Party wins Punjab, Arvind Kejriwal takes over from the Congress as the natural challenger to Mr. Modi. This is a theme that many are talking about. The Congress cannot take on Modi. The BJP is more scared of Kejriwal and AAP than they are of you. If you lose all these elections, time up. Time to give up the national challenger post to the Aam Adami Party.
You know, like I said about Uttar Pradesh, let's not go ahead of ourselves. I would wish Raghav Chadha well, but he's not winning Punjab, and I can say that with some amount of confidence. What they tried to do in Punjab is shameful, but I'm not going to speak about it. The kind of polarizing factors that they brought in, they tried to play the Hindus versus the Sikhs. I'm not going to get into how they apologized to Mr. Majithia, the drug lords. I'm not going to get into all of that. But let's not step ahead of ourselves. Let's keep our humility intact here. To call yourselves the supreme challenger to the BJP is perhaps being a little foolhardy, and I don't think in politics that serves you right.
No, but at least they're fighting with passion. See, they're staking claim. Supriya, let's look at what's happening. Whether this is true or not, he's come over here, danke ki chot pe, Prime Minister Modi, BJP, I'm coming for you. That's the confidence, that's the spirit with which they are approaching their politics in comparison with the Congress, which had a chance in Uttar Pradesh, which had a chance in Uttarakhand, which had a chance in Goa. You simply didn't put up the kind of fight that AAP did in Punjab over the last 5 years to build the base, to be the agent of change.
You make me laugh, Rahul, and you make me laugh because are you trying to tell here that we did not fight in Uttarakhand or we did not fight in Goa?
Your man in Uttarakhand was helping douse the fires in Punjab. Your own party leaders were undercutting Harish Rawat's position. In Goa as well, your campaign was a bit of a mess. Some of these problems are the Congress's own creation. You need to look at the mirror in the face, ma'am.
You don't want me to, let's remember one thing here. These are exit polls. These are not results. We will talk on the 10th of March again, and maybe the tone and tenor would have changed. I will only say one thing. Let's not talk about internal differences because we all know how Mr. Amit Shah and Mr. Yogi were at loggerheads all throughout the elections. Let's not get into that. I will only say here, let's wait for the 10th of March. But the issues on the ground, whether it's in Uttar Pradesh or Punjab or Uttarakhand, continue to plague the electorate.
Many watching at this time, Raghav Chadha would say you're getting carried away, you're getting too far ahead of yourself. Even if you win Punjab, it doesn't mean that you'll win Himachal or Gujarat or any other state. Go easy, go slow, don't get overexcited. Raghav.
No, I'm not getting overexcited, and I say this with a sense of responsibility that with the slow demise of the Congress, Aam Adami Party appears to me as not merely as a member of the Aam Adami Party or as co-in-charge for the party in Punjab, but as a student of politics, I can tell you, AAP seems to be the national and the natural replacement of the Congress. Number one. Number two, it's a bit rich coming from the Congress accusing the Aam Adami Party of polarizing the state of Punjab. If one party that should be accused of actually polarizing or attempting to polarize the electorate is the Congress party. It is the Congress party that shamelessly played the Dalit card and did the outreach among the Dalit Samaj. And, if these exit results come true, the Congress party then must concede that Punjab is perhaps the most secular state. Punjab refuses to get divided on lines of caste and religion, and attempts to divide
which is why you were
Punjab
trying
go
to play
against
the
the very
Hindus
grain
versus the
of
Sikhs?
Punjab, Punjabi and Punjabiyat. And let me say this, give me 15 seconds, I'll give you an example to explain this. Because the Congress played this Dalit card, let me explain to them how Punjab psyche functions. Bahujan Samajwadi Party, which is considered to be a political party whose principal vote bank is from the Dalit community, was born in the state of Punjab. In fact, Kashi Ramji comes from the state of Punjab. But in order to practice their Dalit politics, they had to shut shop in Punjab and move to Uttar Pradesh because Punjab refuses to get divided. Mayawati ji fought elections
Raghav,
in one Lok Sabha election, one from Punjab, a seat from Punjab and one from UP. She lost the seat in Punjab and won the seat
Raghav,
in UP.
let your,
So
let your happiness and let your bubbly that you've
this
uncorked.
goes
No, Rajdeep,
against
I want you to
the
build,
grain of
Rajdeep, I want you to build on what
Punjabi
Raghav
and
Chadha is saying.
Punjabiyat.
Let's throw that around the table. If the AAP wins in Punjab, do they emerge as a likely contender in a, say, 10-odd year horizon to challenge the BJP at the center, or is it really the death knell of the Gandhi family where people will realize it's not the Congress that's dead, it's the Gandhi family that needs to make way for a new generation of leaders to come in who can revive the Congress?
Rahul, I've always believed one of the more fascinating questions in the lead up to 2024 and possibly 29 is kaun banega challenger. This is a fascinating question because the fact is that there is a need for a credible opposition challenger. Rahul Gandhi has tried twice and it has been tough. You've seen one...
Tough?
No, 1 minute. 190 of the direct fights between the BJP and the Congress in 2019, the BJP won 175 by an average of 15%, a very big margin. So clearly, the BJP was able to best the Congress. Therefore, it appears that the Congress is unable to challenge the BJP in direct contests. However, I maintain that the Congress is a brand which still has a large pan-Indian appeal. And replacing that kind of brand overnight is not easy. The Aam Adami Party will have... 1 minute, sir.
No, just one interview. No, you know the...
No, 1 minute, sir. Let me complete. No, I must complete.
Signboard cannot be the signboard does not have appeals. Congress
can I
is left
finish?
only signboard.
Okay, you say Congress has signboard. He's right. Every brand needs to reinvent. My view is the Congress is a durable pan-Indian brand that needs to reinvent. If it cannot reinvent, then naturally challengers will emerge. And how are the challengers emerging, sir? Two types. The challengers emerge through regional parties. There are 9 former congressmen who are chief ministers today in India. Mamta Banerjee, Jagan Mohan Reddy, they all carry the Congress in their name. YSRCP, Trinamool Congress. So the brand is there, but there are new people taking it over. Why? Because the Congress has failed to reinvent. The Congress has failed to offer a strong, credible, consistent leadership.
Let's ask Rahul Verma.
And just one last point. Therefore, taking from the Aam Adami Party, the one advantage that the Aam Adami Party does have is that it is not confined to a particular region or regional culture.
But it takes a lot of time to build a party, right?
Exactly, sir. My point, Rahul, is we've learned this game enough. Let's assume on Thursday, AAP wins a big victory in Punjab. Does that mean the AAP can go into Gujarat and believe it's the natural challenger? No. Gujarat's politics is different to Punjab's politics. Can the AAP tomorrow go into Karnataka and openly challenge the BJP? No. Because Karnataka's politics... Will we say, let us assume next year if Congress wins Karnataka or Congress wins Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan or Chhattisgarh as they did in 2018, ki Congress ka comeback hua hai? No. My point is the opposition first needs to find a credible narrative. Not enough for the opposition to say, "Main ek state jeet gaya," as Raghav is saying. Now we'll be the challenger. It will be a huge achievement for the AAP to win Punjab. But kaun banega challenger is a more complex question. It will require a credible narrative, a leader who can take the narrative.
What you were saying.
No, I think that Congress has...
And I did not mention the Gandhis, but you are right that the Gandhis will have to introspect if these results are what they are, if they are what they are.
But are they even capable of introspection? If they haven't introspected since 2014,
sir, I won't get it.
Yes.
Rajdeep, you know, the Congress party and those parties which are emerging, as you are telling about the AAP in 2 states, they have the same DNA, ideologically, organizationally, and the intent. All 3 have the same. So I think that these parties, there will be fragmented
BJP man on your
clients
panel
of these
and nobody
parties.
else?
Some party will be Andhra Pradesh, some
just
party will be
sits
here
there?
and there. Bharatiya Janata Janata Party has emerged as a pan-India party. One, on the basis of leadership, Narendra Modi has highest
Can I
appeal.
please comment?
The people are now conscious. They see the successful foreign policy, successful economic policy, and during the COVID regime, despite all the propaganda by the Congress party and the Aam Adami Party, India has led it.
Okay, let her respond. Since we are talking of the Congress, Supriya Shrineth, would you like to answer that if these exit poll results are right, will the Congress genuinely introspect? You can't, election after election, lose out, let's say, Uttarakhand, state of traditional anti-incumbency, make a mess of Punjab if these numbers are right, and say, no, we got everything right, we are still in the race. Do you understand the importance of reinvention or possibly even looking at the way your leadership functions if these numbers are right?
No, I will answer that question, but I do object to the fact that Mr. Asthana sits there giving yarn amongst your panelists, and there are two of them from the BJP. But that said, Mr. Rakesh ji, आप तो पढ़े लिखे आदमी हैं, आप क्यों ऐसी बातें कर रहे हैं? You are saying the economic policy of the Modi government and the foreign policy is laudable. You really think so? 15 crore families in India earn half of what they do. Unemployment is the biggest menace of our times, and you believe economic policy has served well. You believe foreign policy has served well. We are secluded in our own neighborhood.
Voters have rejected your all.
No, let her finish. Let her
all
finish.
the propaganda plan.
She did not intervene with you.
I did not speak in between.
But you answer our question. Supriya Shrineth, forget your battle with the BJP. Please tell me about Madam. No, I want a straight answer today. If these numbers are right, it's a big if. Will the Congress introspect and accept that it needs to change, reinvent, including perhaps say, look, time for a new leadership?
I don't believe these numbers are right to begin with. I don't believe the numbers of Punjab. I do not believe the BJP is coming back to power in Uttar Pradesh. So I'm not going to answer that hypothetical question, because what I've seen on the ground is palpable anger against the Bharatiya Janata Party.
Okay, so what Raghav Chadha has done very smartly is, in his first answer, first he's accepted all the congratulations, then he's lit a fire and he's happily sitting back saying, forget Punjab, we're also coming for Delhi.
Rahul, I think these debates will go on, and only election results will bear out what I say today, that Aam Adami Party, which is the fastest growing political party in the history of independent India, has arrived at the national scene. We've become a national force. We've become a force reckoned with at the national level. And I differ with the analysis done by Mr. Sardesai that now if we go to Gujarat, we can't be the principal challenger, or we go to Himachal and we can't be the principal challenger. I'm not saying that's our strategy, but I wish to say to him that with a narrative, with a credible face, with a positive agenda, elections are fought and elections are won, and that is what Punjab tells us. Aam Adami Party is the only party that fought this election with a positive agenda. When Channi Saab used to question the skin color of Arvind Kejriwal, Aam Adami Party used to respond with the promise of building good schools. When Shiromani Akali Dal used to make fun of Bhagwant Mann Saab's alleged habits, Aam Adami Party used to respond with the promise of building good hospitals. So therefore, let me just finish. Why are you interrupting me? What's wrong with you?
Let's not talk about positive agendas.
Have I stopped you from speaking? It's my turn. Let me finish. What's wrong with the panelists?
No, wait, now,
Mr. Sardesai,
Raghav, Supriya, no, 1 minute. Raghav, Supriya, the irony is the BJP, just a minute, sir. There are two stories. Punjab, Mike's down. There is the story of Punjab, there's the story of UP. Syed Zafar Islam has been very patient, as have Sandeep Shastri. Syed Zafar Islam, there are two narratives coming out today. If the BJP does remarkably well, it will perhaps give you the momentum into 2024 if these numbers are right. And there's also the question of the challenger that could emerge if the AAP does well. My question to you is, if these numbers in UP hold, do you believe that 2024 is a done deal?
There are two things, Rajdeep. First, 2024 is always a done deal purely because the Honorable Prime Minister had huge amount of admiration among the people of India, and particularly since we are talking about Uttar Pradesh, he enjoys the admiration that no other politician enjoys in the state of Uttar Pradesh. Away from that, when we are talking about in today's context and whatever exit poll suggests, every agencies have projected BJP as the single largest party as the winner. Whether we get a simple majority or whether we get 326 or 336 or 272, as Pati was mentioning, we are extremely confident that we will be able to win 2024 election, and we will definitely, these numbers will hold true.
And does that make Syed Zafar Islam, does that make Yogi Adityanath the number 2 in your party?
Well, there is no number 1, number 2, number 3 in the party. Everybody is a karyakarta in the party. Everybody has responsibilities. These
there is
fancy
a number 1
offices,
at least.
what we
Let's get Rahul Srivastava to answer that. Rahul, what's the thinking within the BJP on this 1, 2, 3?
No, let me just Rahul, just 10 seconds.
Go on.
We often talk about Chief Minister's office, Prime Minister's office, but for us, we are always karyakarta, and everybody has the responsibility with their discharge.
Okay. What's the thinking in the BJP?
See, Rahul, in 2017, was Yogi Adityanath the pick of the BJP, or was he largely the pick of the RSS and the BJP endorsed the decision? In 2016, in Hyderabad, there was a meeting in which 2 names were discussed as prominent leaders as emerging. One was Varun Gandhi at that time, and one was Yogi Adityanath. Yogi Adityanath, as a saffron-robed chief minister, was brought in to balance a lot of caste equations also, because BJP had won a huge mandate. 90% Brahmins and Thakurs had voted for the BJP. They wanted to balance that sector. But also there was a problem that OBCs and others had also voted, and saffron-robed chief minister was supposed to be caste neutral. And that is where lies the catch. Yogi Adityanath, if he wins this election with this majority, if the numbers hold good, will become a very popular leader in Uttar Pradesh, where Modi is also popular. Now, that popularity of a leader in UP cannot be swept aside, Rahul. It is UP we are talking about, which has given so many chief ministers.
Yogi Adityanath
Nobody can say Yogi can be written off
as
after
a force to reckon with in national politics. You can't take that away from him. Whether you like him or you dislike him, with this kind of a mandate, if this is the way the numbers end on the 10th of March, and Rajdeep, you know, when we were in Prayagraj, people, when they were describing Yogi Adityanath, these are supporters, you can call them bhakts if you will, but when he was describing Yogi Adityanath, he started crying. And the only other person I've seen this happen for is Prime Minister Modi. The other chief ministers, whether it is say a Vasundhara Raje Scindia, or it is a Shivraj Chauhan, or it is a Devendra Fadnavis, they may be able administrators to the extent that they are. They don't evoke that kind of passion, the kind of josh amongst the believers that Yogi Adityanath does.
Let me put it this way. The BJP has a core vote of 20%. That core vote is with Yogi Adityanath. They see him as a natural successor as part of the taking forward the Hindutva agenda. But elections are won on the incremental voter, the floating voter. Mr. Modi's great success was when he came from Gujarat, he was able to get that incremental voter. Being an OBC, I believe, made a huge difference, particularly in Bihar and UP, to Mr. Modi's aura around him. People sometimes tend to forget that. Not just Hindutva, but also someone who was not from the traditional upper caste elite. Yogi Adityanath has been identified in the past with the Thakur Samaj. He himself has openly said it. To get the incremental voter, he will have to do more. Remember, Uttar Pradesh is not India. Mr. Modi today is a pan-Indian figure. Will Yogi become that? He could be. Nobody doubts that.
He has the perfect platform.
He has, look, he has. But I would hesitate to say that he will do it only because he wins UP. It requires a lot of work. It's not so easy. Mr. Modi has worked hard at building his pan-Indian image. Yogi Adityanath is also going to have to do that. Maybe Sandeep Shastri, do you think so? That if these numbers are right, Yogi Adityanath automatically becomes the next big face of the BJP? Or should we wait to suggest, to press the pause button and say, look, Mr. Yogi Adityanath will have to prove himself, for example, in South India? Dr. Shastri?
The next big face for the BJP, is there space for a next big space? I'm not sure. I don't think there is a vacancy for a space. But then I think the question is, let's also remember this, if our figures in UP in the exit poll come true, let's also remember the Prime Minister had a major role to play in the campaign, especially after the defections from within the BJP to other parties. The Prime Minister was the critical face of the campaign. Let's not ignore that factor also. I think that factor will have to be budgeted into any result And if the India Today poll comes true, the results, what we are predicting comes true, let's also budget in the factor that the Prime Minister's role was critical in this election for the BJP. So I think we are possibly jumping the gun by trying to project the Chief Minister of UP in a very, very...
And I don't think Mr. Modi is going to the Margdarshak Mandal in any case in a hurry. But Preeti Chaudhary, when you were on the ground...
There is no vacancy, so we are not talking of a second, third, fourth position.
Sure. Did you see, Preeti, a pro-Yogi mood? My sense was Yogi stood for law and order. Stood for, in a way, sending out a message to the Muslims. I'm being politically incorrect there. Mr. Modi stood much more for the so-called Vikas agenda, the welfareism. Would you agree?
Well, I would agree, and why I'd say that, Rajdeep, is have you seen those ration packets that are going across in every household, the Bharati's that we are talking about?
Both their photographs
Both their photographs there, but Modi ji is very much there on that. Now, why...
Slightly bigger than Yogi.
Well, yes, I guess. But when you talk about what Yogi stands for, this election, but at least what I saw on ground, is Yogi Adityanath's election on ground. You can make that out when you go and talk to the voters. It's an out-and-out Yogi election. And when you talk about the fact of law and order, you know, I've been listening to all of you and I've been thinking of my own reports that what is it that I missed, you know, to miss such a massive wave. And one of the factors is, when I look at it, the whole issue of law and order. You know, one has assumed, most of us reporters that we were on ground, thought that this is not, there is no communal polarization that we are picking up. You know, it wasn't in our face communal polarization that we were picking up. But now when I look at it and I rethink and I step back, along with the Russian, the whole issue of law and order, and that, you know, inception by Yogi Adityanath, you know, we're talking about, and you know, the 80-20 ka sawal, garmi ka sawal, that whole inception has come, communal polarization has come through the route of law and order and suraksha. And that has worked both for the women, and it's also played into the...
See, but it comes back...
No, one second. Rahul Verma, because my sense is, and this is controversial, in constituencies in UP, where Muslims are more than 25%, there is an element of polarization that has continued to take place, and whether it's not 80-20, but it certainly benefits the BJP.
Law and order is that.
And it is reflected through, what is law and order?
Law and order is that.
Anti-CA mein, kisko jail mein dala, Musalmanon ko dala. When Mr. Yogi...
But Rajdeep, that's being very unfair. It's not just that. One second. The fact that women can go out in Uttar Pradesh after 7 p.m. at night, they're not scared, they're not afraid. You can't go on a caste base into a police station and say, I'm a Yadav, my case should be dropped. Those are significant achievements. You can't take it away. Yes, it is a Yogi Modi double engine, but you can't take away the effort that's being made on the ground and the work that's being done.
Sir, just a minute. I won't leave it at that. There are two things. You're absolutely right. Many women, especially in Western UP, will tell you कि 7 बजे के बाद हम जा सकते हैं. Lucknow will
across even in Eastern UP,
that's right.
everywhere.
But there's a second point. When you speak about, there's an element of it that, and this is the argument that a lot of that the opposition made. Why don't you talk about where are the gundas of Eastern UP who are not Muslim? Why have you not arrested many of them? No, 1 minute. This argument is made. The fact is, whether you like it or not, what have been the issues where there has been strong action? On anti-CA, all the protesters were arrested. Many of them, their properties were confiscated. The Supreme Court has had to intervene now because some of them were ordinary rickshawalas. 1 minute. What was bulldozer? The fact is, there is a dog whistle. And there is...
But Rajdeep, you are imposing your view on the data. Your view is not what the data is saying. The data is saying, and I want to read this very clearly, if the BJP wins, 27% of those who voted for the BJP said, Rajya ke vikas ke liye. You're a Delhi ka voter. The UP voters have voted. They're telling you what they think. They're telling you why they think the way they are.
Now, when we are discussing 2-3 things together, one is Modi and Yogi. Answer is here. Yes. How people have responded who have voted for BJP. CM Ummidwar, meaning Yogi ke liye 7% among BJP voters 7%. And Modi ke liye 8%.
Correct.
One argument. Second argument is that कानून व्यवस्था अच्छी हुई है 10%, राज्य के विकास के लिए 27%. Two things. Then सरकारी योजनाओं का लाभ मिला 11%. So now see 10% for the कानून व्यवस्था, 11% for the welfareism. What
Labharti.
But it's the overall package, Rahul Verma. It's the overall package.
Yes, I agree there.
They've looked at the options. You can't say because he's anti-Muslim he's winning. That's really unfair.
I never said
no,
that,
I'm
sir.
saying because you're saying particularly Muslims.
No,
People
sir.
looked at their options. If this poll is correct, they've picked their choice.
You are
Sir, different parts
no,
of
Rajdeep, you are devaluing the entire.
I am not.
No, you are devaluing the Yogi Adityanath's work in the Uttar Pradesh.
No, not
you
at
are
all.
not seeing the infrastructure
Not at all.
development.
If you cherry pick
law
my
and order is meant for the hooligans, not meant for the Muslims or Hindus.
I will give you a list of the people
Can
who
you
have been
cite
arrested.
5 names that
Rahul
they
Verma
were
is trying to
Muslims?
get a verdict.
They were Muslims and they were arrested because they were Muslims.
Should I give you
If
the
a
list of
Muslim
the
is a
people
hooligan, he will be arrested. If a Muslim is a hooligan, Muslim is a criminal, the state will act.
No, but Rajdeep, the police doesn't act on the basis of caste. That's a big difference.
I'll tell you what.
The police doesn't even listen to its own MLAs, which is why BJP MLAs were upset.
One minute. One of the things that was told to me by a police officer, and this is to the credit of Yogi Adityanath, he said that previous governments में मुझे phone आते थे कि इसको छोड़ो उसको छोड़ो phone नहीं आते. Let me also tell you that the same police officer told me कि सर मायावती के राज में law and order बहुत tight थी. कि law and order, and you saw it during Ayodhya judgment, Mayawati also had a reputation of being very tight on law and order. The difference is Yogi Adityanath comes as a package deal. It includes delivery schemes. It includes law and order. It includes a certain anti-Muslim sentiment that exists. All of this comes together as a package deal. Don't run away from that. I'm not saying one is.
Now, can you cite 2 things that is anti-Muslim in Uttar Pradesh? What Yogi Adityanath had done? Just give me 2 instances.
Two rallies I will cite which happened in Western Uttar Pradesh.
I'm not talking the rally.
It's messaging,
Don't
sir.
the polemical things.
It is
I'm
messaging.
just talking that in 5 years, Yogi Adityanath had done something which is going against the Muslim sentiment, which is going against the Muslims' welfare, which is discriminatory. Cite just 2 things. Don't go these are the empirical facts about the government.
Our poll is not showing that religious polarization is winning the election for the BJP. I'm not saying that.
But you are saying the anti-Muslim. How we are anti-Muslim? Just tell me how we are anti-Muslims. There can be, you can cite 2
Sir, the fact is that when you take a strong stand of the kind that Yogi Adityanath, for example, took.
No, the hard state is the fact. Hard state is essential.
Okay, sir, you don't want to discuss. I will show you the numbers and maybe the numbers one day of the people who are arrested, including their religious.
No, those who are going against the civil society, they would be arrested.
So therefore, you are saying Thakurs are not criminals.
No, who said that? Just tell me 5 Thakurs who are the criminals and not arrested. No, you are just imagining. Your imagination is not the truth. Your imagination is not the reality.
Okay, let Rahul Verma, why don't you give us a more academic argument rather than a political argument?
See, political parties are always rooted in certain social cleavages, and they will actively mobilize on those things.
Yes.
They will sometimes use rhetorics, sometimes through their policies, and sometimes through their actions. Parties continue to divide society to make majorities for themselves. That's what parties do. They sometimes will create divisions on OBC, non-OBC, Yadav, OBC. So that's how divisions work in the society. And as Preeti was pointing out, not just rallies and manifestos during 5 years of governance, you can find enough examples of what BJP or CM Yogi Adityanath might have done on those things. I think what we were discussing is about that Yogi Adityanath or the BJP in UP managed to put forward a package deal on many of the platforms, and that's where perhaps Samajwadi Party basically came too late in the game, too little in the game. Like, think about this, like COVID was an issue. How much mobilization did Samajwadi Party do on that issue? Were Samajwadi Party workers present on the ground telling that things have gone bad, we are there to help you? Did they help migrants on that thing? So all of these things, like, there are always issues present in the society, but they have to be articulated, they have to be mobilized. Only then you can get advantage.
And let me add to what he said. Tejasvi Yadav had a single point message in Bihar on jobs. Main 10 crore naukri dunga. The problem with the Akhilesh campaign, it had mixed messages. Number 2, and maybe Pradeep's data will say it, just as Yogi Adityanath was identified with a particular type of politics, the Samajwadi Party is identified with Muslim appeasement. And it is identified with the number of criminals who are Muslims. Just a minute now, Mr. Sinha, who are seen to have been patronized by the Samajwadi Party. Mr. Azam Khan is in jail. Their candidate from from Kerala is in jail, and that has been used. I don't know whether your data captures this, but somewhere that messaging, and Rahul Srivastava has spent more years than UP than anyone else, has over the years कि ये जो पार्टी है ये मुसलमान यादवों की पार्टी है, ये मुसलमान criminals को patronize करती है, and that messaging has gone deep into the narrative through WhatsApp, through media management, and through reality.
See, Rajdeep, the BJP has changed the turf in UP. You see why I say change the turf? That if you see from temple, which is a tangible, difficult to deliver element, it brought in non-tangible elements like Kabristan, Shamshan. These are things which make people suspicious of each other. Sowing that seeds, that's why I say even this election will be decided largely by that sense of suspicion people have vis-a-vis Muslims.
Yes.
They turn Hindus inside a polling booth. That's what is the most dominating fact at the time of pressing the EVM.
Pradeep, does that show in your survey that people, even Jats, for example, who are part of the farmers' agitation, when he goes into the polling booth, has a different identity?
See, it is very clear and evident even in our poll that Samajwadi Party is largely, I am saying largely associated with first the Parivar ki party, second the criminals, then the misrule during the Samajwadi Party regime, particularly in small government offices and in police stations. This is what they were victim of. And the other side, I am coming to that. Then these Yadavs and Muslims were literally manhandling in so many cases when it comes to the Dalits. You are getting my point?
So non-Jatav Dalits in particular, therefore, will not vote for Yadav Raj.
Yes.
Similarly, non-Yadav OBCs will not vote because they fear a Yadav Raj. So that's why it comes. Yes.
We forget the near history. In 2017, Yogi was selected as a bad cop for a good cop, Mr. Modi. It was a very simple theory of good cop, bad cop in Uttar Pradesh, which was most important center point of.
So you play Hindutva and Vikas.
And no, Modi is a good cop, and Modi, whatever is for national.
Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas.
And just for a discussion, can we discuss ever that Yogi turning in suited booted politician?
No, but can I say
that
the pundits over here are being really unfair to Yogi Adityanath?
No.
You are taking away agency from the voters of Uttar Pradesh. If this is the way it ends up, Rajdeep, they looked at the options that were available. They said, we like what Yogi Adityanath is doing and we want him. It's not as if it happened by default or because he's anti-Muslim. People like the overall package.
Rahul said that people like Rajdeep is not ready to digest the landslide victory.
Sir, you are unable.
No, landslide victory is...
I am sorry, Mr. Rakesh Sinha.
No, landslide victory is not due to the communal polarization.
Mr. Rakesh Sinha,
this is the developmental agenda of Narendra Modi. Developmental agenda of the Narendra Modi one. Second, the law and order is very important and significant thing for any civil society. Without law and order, no civil society can grow.
Mr. Rakesh Sinha.
You know, Uttar Pradesh was just like a jungle Raj.
Mr. Rakesh Sinha, I suggest you read... No, 1 minute, Mr. No, I will not...
You are not digesting landslide victory. This is the reality. BJP is growing as a party, as a national
not
party.
Able to understand.
Narendra Modi is a decisive appeal in this country.
Okay, sir. Nobody has denied any of it.
Playing role for the BJP
in UP
this is not good.
Sir, I have given you the reasons. I suggest you also do a bit of reading.
I read your article.
You in fact said only an hour ago you got your analysis perfect. Suddenly you are turning around.
No, because after landslide victory you are changing your stance against the BJP. Every BJP victory
just a minute now.
Such a big victory can't happen by default of Rahul. If it happens, it's happened because people liked what was on the packet, what was on the ticket. It's Yogi Modi together. They picked it, they liked it.
Sir, I have explained to you, and I don't think you all are understanding an explanation, that an election victory of this kind has various elements to it. Women vote in a particular way for law and order, Ration Shasan. There are males who will vote possibly because they think that Samajwadi Party practices Muslim appeasement, is a Yadav Muslim party. There's a Kurmi who will vote because he doesn't want Yadav Raj. There are different factors that come together. The bigger factor is simply this, and this also is there in my article. UP, according to the voter, believes there are lack of credible options. I have given Mayawati opportunities over the years. She built what she called in 2007 a Sarvajan Samaj. It broke away because the Brahmins felt they weren't given enough of the power cake.
Okay.
Akhilesh was given his opportunity in 2012. there was a feeling that the Damangai returned, the Shivpal Yadavs and all were running their show. All of this is in recent public memory. It's not 30 years ago. The Congress, for example, to be fair to them, had certain very useful manifestos but had no organization on the ground. In this environment, Yogi Adityanath plus Mr. Modi, center plus state, Hindutva plus Vikas, all of which comes together, if these numbers are right, to show a big majority. My point is, let us not reduce political analysis to say, oh, it's only Hindutva or it's only law and order. It's a complex range of issues, all of which come together at a particular time. And therefore, unless we do that, we will never understand why these numbers are right.
Okay, final words.
And my final word to that is the woman voter. We have gone through all of this. When you see a 16% gap, you must understand, and therefore I give credit to Mr. Modi in particular, that he has redefined the politics in terms of addressing women voters and giving them status and saying, look,
but
I'm
Rajdeep,
giving
it's
you
not
ration.
just Mr. Modi, that's the point I'm making. If women voters voted disproportionately for the BJP, it's also because of better law and order provided by the state government.
Of course it is. But
so
the fact...
It's the whole package.
What is status? कि मैं 7 बजे के बाद बाहर जा सकती हूँ, कि मुझे राशन मिल रहा है,
no harassment,
no harassment, मुझे उज्ज्वला मिल रहा है. You create a status around a woman. The Labharti Mahila is a critical factor. If you ask me, out of all these factors I mentioned, the one factor that I believe has helped the BJP offset anti-incumbency against local MLAs. You don't tell me that the local MLAs are performers. Most of them of the BJP, frankly, and the other parties are seen by the voter as non-performers. But because you have provided me benefits, especially during the COVID pandemic, I want to reward you. And that's what the voters are doing.
Okay.
That's
Let's get final words. Factor. Let's start with Rakesh Sinha.
Demonizing Yogi Adityanath.
I haven't demonized
No, you are not.
I'm not demonizing.
A certain section
Please don't say that.
A certain section of intellectuals continue to demonize,
so you can tell them.
demonize Yogi Adityanath. You know that his governance is realized by the people. They are experiencing the governance. It is not that he is governing from some Mangal Lok and the people are not realizing that they need people like me and you to communicate the people. They are realizing everyday experience about the infrastructure, about the education, about law and order. Second thing, the Narendra Modi is a pan-India appeal. After decades, India got a stable government at the center. That central government is from northeast Manipur to Uttar Pradesh, so the kind of governance. And those people who say that BJP is doing the same caste and communal power, no, we are doing the constructive mobilization.
Okay.
Constructive mobilization depends on that existing reactionary caste politics. We are defying and denying.
Any election, winning the election is winning the hearts of the people.
Correct.
It's very simple. And the issues or the deliveries or the performance which affect across the spectrum demographically and geographically, and most importantly, Indian demography in context, 80% is poor. The 100-vote caste, those who didn't turn up, I'm not counting that, is 80% is rural and poor. Their livelihood depend on government social welfare schemes, the delivery, the vyavastha. So unless it touches across all the spectrum, the case, the ideal case is Naveen Patnaik. There is no Hindi Muslim, there is no organization, there is no vocal factor, there is no visibility. Why is he winning the election and surviving? That's the 80%. That's the 80%.
Agreed.
And Garib Kalyan also include law and order situation if it is in the bad shape.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
Rahul Verma, final words. What's the big takeaway nationally?
The emergence of women voter. If these surveys, basically the indication that is coming out, if this is true, we need to figure out why they are voting in such large numbers for BJP, and if that's going to be there for a longer time, we are seeing a tectonic shift in Indian politics.
Absolutely, I agree.
Preeti, final words.
Well, okay, I am a little suspect, though I would have thought that, if the BJP was given an edge, I would have completely agreed. Why am I suspect is because of the woman 16% gap there. In places like Western Uttar Pradesh, where 9 seats you've given in the first phase, I find it difficult because I found it very difficult to talk to women, I'm a woman, and I didn't speak to them on the streets. I was going to their houses, I was sitting there with them, I was having a conversation. what I feel that women in UP don't have that kind of agency, because we're talking about agency and women, that women of a Bihar or a women of West Bengal had. They have, you know, they think differently, because I've dealt with all of them. I still find it very difficult that women would be en masse voting out of
So I think the biggest takeaway is, if this is true, the BJP's arithmetic of 2070s is intact, and the chemistry of subterranean Hindutva still is working.
Sheila.
I think 14, 17, 19, 22 teaches us that Modi is consciously 24/7 ensures that he does not make any political mistake, correct? His entire concentration is in being politically correct for his core constituency. He has not made any mistakes since 2014 that should frustrate opposition. Second thing, that Modi has turned Garib Kalyan Mela this country.
He made a huge mistake with demonetization.
Farm laws, they take it back.
No, farm laws I get, but let me just say.
People do make mistakes, but.
Yeah. So let's not say no one has made a mistake.
They do.
He has made mistake, but he's politically clever.
That mistake was, it turned into mistake. It was a political correctness. It was in a Indira Gandhi mold.
Yeah.
See, so he was trying that. And third thing, I think the big mistake Akhilesh Yadav made, and we must make mention of it, that in Western UP, where Jata votes were there, and everybody knew that vote share of Mayawati will decrease, Akhilesh Yadav should have ensured not only he gets that vote, but also ensure that BJP doesn't get that vote. I think this result would have been much different if Akhilesh Yadav had concentrated on Jata votes.
Okay, let's be honest. I don't think that's going to happen so easily. The Yadav-Jatav conflicts are much deeper.
Yes,
that's why I said,
but he had a 5
Sheila,
years.
with due regard, please understand, this is a very complex state, which needs to be understood, therefore, with complexity. My takeaway is simply, which I've just tweeted, if the India Today exit poll predictions are right, especially for UP, there is just one vote bank that probably matters more than any other today in India, Mahila Labharti. It's a Ration Sashan election if the numbers are right. This is as far as UP is concerned. As far as Punjab is concerned, I think it shows that the Congress faces serious problems when it comes to political strategy. If Uttarakhand is right and the BJP is winning that, it shows the Congress doesn't have the organization on the ground to translate even anti-incumbency into an election victory. And therefore, two opportunities are opening up. One is Kaun Banega Challenger, where if Arvind Kejriwal wins, he will have a certain positioning for the future. But it also shows Hindutva plus Vikas in North India and in the Hindi heartland is a very potent force. I won't call it Modi Yogi. I will say Hindutva plus Vikas as defined by welfareism of the kind that is projected through Ration.
And if the YouTube data is any indication, what's very clear in this poll of polls is that the India Today coverage over the last 4 hours had a bigger margin of victory than the Access My India projection for Uttar Pradesh.
Really?
Huge lead, huge lead. Rajdeep, you're also trending for all the wrong reasons, I must tell you
My poor daughter has told me, Papa,
I hope your children don't watch
My daughter has told me, if you ever trend again, I am not going to be talking to you. I find
What's the problem with you trending?
Because you see, they take selective bites. My debate with him will go on. Now, the fact that 1 hour ago, the same person said your analysis was perfect will not come out, but his debate and mine on Hindutva will come. I have no problem with any of that. I have decided now, last election hai, Rahul.
Modi ji is not retiring, he's much older than you. What will you do? Rajdeep for CM in Goa?
No, not CM.
If it's a hung house, it's a good option.
Rajdeep throwing his hat in the Chief Minister's race.
For Goa?
Goa.
Where he's got his cousin over there, the guy might get, Vijay Santhu might get
his media
advisor. So he could be a consensus candidate.
I'm looking forward to his media advisor. And
you will go as media advisor.
Tons of money there.
Then why am I stuck in the media place? Everyone else is going to Goa. We can get some land near Sindhudurg by the beach. It's not a bad idea.
Rajdeep, just accept that BJP is not what you think. It is
okay, so let me just say, remember Rahul, final word, this is just caveat, this is an exit poll.
That's true.
Everything I have promised also with Pradeep Gupta, if his numbers are right, like we did with Aam Adami Party, we will have sweets that day if he's right.
You won't dance again, right?
If you want me...
No, we don't want you to dance. Rajdeep, really. I was away studying. You were dancing. Bad idea. You don't need to dance. We need to wrap up. We'll have more for you. See you at 7 a.m. the 10th of March. Hopefully all of what we've said over the last 4 hours still holds. If it doesn't, we're like commentators. We'll just do commentary on what's happening at that time. But we'll see you at 7 a.m. on the 10th of March. Thank you for tuning in through this evening today. I hope you enjoyed that.